Hey, welcome back. Let's begin the news by telling you that the Nigerian government has suspended its decision on a new minimum wage for workers, agreeing to meet with stakeholders before it comes up with a tentative wage review. The Federal Executive Council, during its weekly meeting, says that President Bola Tinubu will be holding further consultations on the issue before finalizing his decision on the matter. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Nigeria's president presides over the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. 39 memos were presented to the president during the meeting, among which includes the new national minimum wage. The president approved some of the memos, but stepped down the memo relating to the minimum wage.
The new national minimum wage is not just that of the federal government. It is an issue that involves the federal government, the state governments, local governments, and the organized private sector, and of course, including the organized labor. That memo was stepped down to enable Mr. President to consult further before an executive bill is presented to the National Assembly.
The Finance, Health and Environment Ministers gave accounts of the approvals received for their ministries.
I took one council memo for approval by the council, and that was to do with strengthening the customs service. As you know, I have the honor of chairing the Board of Customs, and so it fell to me to take before the Federal Executive Council the requirements by way of equipment, by way of security gadgets, and so on and so forth, and I did that.
The people should be aware of this outbreak of cholera so that we can control it quickly. The council then approved a cabinet committee comprising the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, Ministry of Budget and National Planning, Water Resources, Environment, Youth Aviation Ministry, Education, because some of our children will be going back to school, to ensure that we put safeguards, in addition to the state governments. And we've been asked to co-opt one of the state governors who has an important experience that can be contributed to this effort in terms of sanitation, open defecation, so that Nigeria makes progress in reducing open defecation. Because cholera is a developmental issue. It's not just a health issue, it's a multi-sectoral issue. All of us as Nigerians have to lean in to make that happen. So Council took a position, and the President directed that this Cabinet Committee be put in to oversee what this Emergency Operations Center led by the NCDC is doing, and for the resources to be provided so that we are complemented by the state governments as well.
Council approved that a ban is placed on the use of on-the-go plastics, what we know as single-use plastics, in all ministries, agencies, and departments of the federal government. This is in line with the 2022 National Policy on Plastic Waste Management. And I must say that the discussion in ESCO was very smooth, because all members of ESCO, including Mr. President, was very enthusiastic about this ban.
The recent decision by the FEC will surely elicit reactions from the nation's organized labor. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
And now we bring you news from Lagos. That's the Dangote refinery. A fire incident has been reported at the affluent treatment plant of the Dangote refinery in Lagos. But a statement signed by the refinery's chief branding and communications officer, and that's Anthony Chiejini, says that the fire has been put out. Now, the statement adds that there is no cause for alarm as the refinery is operating, and there is no recorded injury or body harm to any of the staff on duty. We switch gears back to organized labor, as it has now expressed dissatisfaction with the Federal Executive Council's decision to step down the memorandum regarding the tripartite committee's report on the new national minimum wage. The Nigeria Labour Congress criticized the FAC's move, highlighting the potential for harmful speculation. Head of Public Relations for the NLC, Benson Opa, voiced concerns over the FAC's failure to consider the memorandum during its meeting. He said delaying the tripartite committee's report leaves room for injurious speculations. Now, following the council meeting, Minister of Information Mohammed Idris said the FAC decided to step down the memorandum to allow for further consultations. Now, this discussions, according to him, will involve President Bola Tinubu, state governors, local government authorities, and the private sector. And now to discuss this further, I'm being joined via video chat, public affairs analyst Francis Chilaka. Mr. Chilaka, many thanks for coming on. I appreciate you for doing this with us. Let's get started quickly because we're pressed for time. The federal government has now suspended its decision on a new minimum wage for workers, agreeing to meet with stakeholders before it comes out with a tentative wage review. What are your thoughts on this decision that they've made?
I think the federal government is taking advantage of labor. The federal government is not being sincere because, it is shocking to hear the minister saying that Mr. President needs to do further consultations. And then, the thing that really comes to mind immediately is the fact that when Mr. President decided to remove the fuel subsidy that has brought all this quagmire, he didn't hold any consultations. When they decided to increase, to hike the electricity tariff, there was no consultations. So a lot of things this government has done that they didn't have to consult. But I'm surprised that when it now comes to what affects the ordinary Nigerians, the government is talking of consultation. This is it's the height of hypocrisy. For me, that is what it is. But I'll quickly put this, that labor itself messed up, big time when they called off a strike without getting anything at all. They shouldn't have called off that strike. You use strike to pressure government to do something. And, everybody thought that everything was in place, that labor knew what they were doing. But calling off that strike has actually, put them in a very precarious situation. They shouldn't have called off that strike in the first place.
Right. Now, let's go back. You just said that the presidency didn't, ask for stakeholders to, ask for consent or maybe opinions or decisions, consultation in this matter. So how does the Federal Executive Council's decision as well to step down the memo impact on the timeline for the new minimum wage implementation, right? And what are the potential consequences of the delay? Because you're saying now about the strike, they should have continued with the strike until they got something tentative. With this hold, what will be the impact?
The way it is, I think that what is going to play out, it looks like the government wants to treat labor as an underdog because the government seems to want to say that they have all the A's in their hands and all of that, because it is obvious that government is not ready to play ball with labor. Government is taking labor for granted. That is what it boils down to. Honestly speaking, that is what it boils down to. So labor needs to, as it stands now, I really don't know what labor is going to do. Are they going to call off another strike? If labor calls for strike, Nigerians may not likely support that strike. Nigerians may not likely support it. So as it is, labor will be faced with accepting whatever government decides to push out to them. And it looks like that is what government is going to do. Government is playing and they understand the game. Don't forget that Mr. President is the master of strike and all of that and protest. He knows how to hold protests. He knows how to, use protests to get what he wants. So what we have playing out is what they call reverse psychology. And that's what the government is playing on labor right now.
Right. Let's circle back to the consultation process, right? How would this process address the concerns of the state governments and other stakeholders, like who may have, differing opinions on the new minimum wage, whether it's 62,000, 100,000, or remain as is?
Well, I really don't know what kind of consultations Mr. President is looking at. Don't forget that a tripartite committee was set up, and it appears that right now that committee's report or the works of that committee has been thrown into the dustbin. So if you're talking about consultation, and you say you want to consult with governors, how many months is it going to take them to do this consultation? You know, this consultation with government, I mean, with party, with everybody involved, is taking for too long. You know, we just saw bills getting approved without, you know, due consultations. We saw that the judiciary got an increment in their salary. There was no consultation. So I think it's just a game, mind game that government is playing. And I don't see anything coming out of this consultation. What will probably come out is that government will wake up tomorrow and say, oh, we have had consultation, and this is what we want to pay. You know, Labour can do whatever they want to do. It's going to come to that. But I pray it doesn't come to that. I pray that, you know, Mr. President would also understand that, you know, people are finding it difficult to survive in the country. Things are getting very tough, and their purchasing power is low. So government needs to be very sensitive in whatever figure they're going to throw at Labour.
Well, renewed hope is what we hope for. Well, Mr. Chilaka, many thanks for doing this with us. I appreciate you for coming on. Let's give you a bit of update now on the situation in Rivers. The factional National Youth Council of Nigeria, NYCN, has taken to the streets of Port Harcourt in a solidarity march, urging the police to maintain their presence at local government secretariats across Rivers State. Led by factional chairman Wasabari Bani, the NYCN marched to the police command headquarters on Moscow Road. Bani addressed the crowd, stating that the police barricades at the secretariats have successfully prevented vandalism by hoodlums. He emphasized the need for the police to stay in place until the appeal court resolves the ongoing political issues in the state. Bani called on the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to provide the necessary support to ensure peace and security at the council secretariats.
But we are here to state firmly to the Nigerian police force, to this command, led by our able Commissioner of Police, Tunji Disu, for what you have done for Rivers youth. Let me say this to the world, because many people will not know what is happening in Rivers State. What you have combated is more than terrorism in some states.
My duty as a policeman is to protect lives and properties. And I give you my words that we are going to continue to protect lives and properties. We are not politicians. We will do our best not to join their politics. I thank you so much for all you have done, for the support you have shown.
You're watching News Now on News Central TV. We go on a short break. There's more after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back. Earlier, we told you that a fire incident had been reported at the effluent treatment plant of the Dangote refinery in Lagos. Now, according to reports, the fire broke out in the early hours of Wednesday. Now, at this moment, News Central cannot independently confirm the extent of damage the incident may have caused, but a statement signed by the refinery's chief branding and communications officer, and that's Anthony Chejani, says that the fire has been put out. Now, the statement adds that there is no cause for alarm, and that as the refinery is operating, and there is no recorded injury or body harm to any of their staff on duty. We'll continue to bring more news as the story unfolds. And now we switch gears to northern Nigeria, where the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, has filed a defamation lawsuit against the Kaduna State Assembly on Wednesday at the Federal High Court in Kaduna. El-Rufai demanded a public apology from the lawmakers who published a report that claims to defame him and his cabinet on the alleged misappropriation of over 423 billion naira during his 8 years administration. El-Rufai's legal team argued that the report is both false and malicious, designed to tarnish his reputation and discredit his administration's achievement, asserting that the allegations have caused significant harm to his personal and professional life. The former governor stated his developmental policies were efforts to improve infrastructure and education in Kaduna State. He maintains that the Assembly's allegations were politically motivated and lack any substantive evidence. Youth participation in governance has been described as the essential remedy for many issues plaguing public offices, paving the way for a brighter future. Members of the Cyber Action, a non-governmental organization, firmly believe that young people hold the key to transformative nation building through impactful policy making. News Central's Chizoba Anionwe brings us more.
Cyber Africa, a non-governmental organization, has again condemned the misconduct of public officials, attributing these issues to the exclusion of youth from policy-making processes. The organization believes that instead of resorting to social vices and the get-rich-quick mentality, young people should rather engage in activities that highlight their talents and demonstrate their commitment to strengthening democracy in Nigeria.
So what you find out today is you find out that you have a lot of young people that are social media savvy but do not understand the conversation that is currently going on in terms of governance. And so that's the reason why we launched this particular series today to continue the conversations about how policy decisions of government shapes young people and how young people can participate actively.
Their relentless fight for inclusion in the face of exclusivity is the drive that will make their voices heard, especially in policy making for the betterment of society.
Young people in this country have the capacity, they have the ability, they are raising up their hand, they want to be part of the decisions that will affect their future, but they are being excluded. But it is no longer time that we continue to exclude young people. The time has come for us to incorporate the ideas of young people and to begin to solve a lot of problems and issues that we have in this country.
If truly youths are the leaders of tomorrow and the time spent under this roof is anything to go by, then their take-home is of great importance.
At least I can see people's diverse opinion about what politics is, policy making, implementation.
And I see that this program, which has to do with governance and also policy dialogue, in which we see the need why our policies should be reviewed so that the youth should also be favored more and also be involved in politics.
Despite the seemingly low number of these young voices, raising public awareness is crucial. Only through broader sensitization can their perspectives be amplified and recognized, leading to more meaningful democratic benefits. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anionwe.
Now, earlier we told you that a fire incident has been reported at the affluent treatment plant of the Dangote refinery in Lagos State. Now, according to reports, the fire broke out in the early hours of Wednesday. At this moment, News Central cannot independently confirm the extent of damage the incident may have caused. Now, but a statement signed by the refinery's chief branding and communications officer, and that's Anthony Chejini, says the fire has been put out. The statement adds that there is no cause for alarm as the refinery is operating and there is no recorded injury or body harm to any of the staffs on duty. And now to health matters. The battle against illicit drug use and trafficking in Nigeria has taken a huge turn in the last 3 years, with several arrests being made and several syndicates exposed. However, there is still much more to be done as the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, joins other anti-drug agencies around the world to mark World Drug Day. The agency says working on drug demand reduction is another way to go in the battle against this use and sale of illicit drugs in Nigeria. And now to join us via video chat to discuss this in detail, I'm joined by Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, Elvis Akpobi. Elvis, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you for doing this with us. Let's get started very quickly. And I'd like to ask you about today's International Day. As we observe International Day, drug abuse and illicit trafficking, what are the most significant challenges in curbing drug abuse globally?
Globally, the challenges we are faced with today is basically because of most of these abuses are about people between the age of 19 to 60 years. There are cases of 60 years are involved in it, and a handful of these people believe that when they are depressed, when they are lonely, the only way to take themselves out of depression and all that is to involve in taking psychoactive substances, which has led to death and even sometimes crime. Back in Nigeria, we have a population of more than 200 million people, and statistics have it that 70% of this population are young people, and over 15% of these young people are involved in drug abuse.
Now, we've been talking about evidence-based prevention strategies, and I'd like to ask you, how do you think this type of strategies can be effectively implemented, especially in our communities and for those that are most at risk of drug abuse?
We have, let's say, private sector commission called the NDLA. I know they've been doing their best, but for me, I think engagement is key. Oftentimes, you find out that drug abuse is prevalent mostly because of peer-to-peer influence and unemployment and other things. But how often do we engage these young people who are involved in this thing? Another thing we should keep in mind again that is key is parenting. Because of the way our economy seems the quest to make life better, parents, a handful of we keep complaining about government, but government can't do it, or even the private sector needs to be involved. Parents, a lot of parents have forgotten their roles when it comes to parenting. If you're a good parent, you should know when your word, when its character changes. If you're very, very conscious, you will know. And when you don't befriend your children, they become a problem, because oftentimes the acts of getting involved in drug abuse come at a very young age, like maybe between the age of 19, 17, mostly when their peers are taking it. So if parents can be deliberate with their children, engaging them, taking note of their movements, their body language and all that, it will help reduce that the use of drug abuse. Then the NDLA, I don't know if they are underfunded, but they need to do more work. I know, let me use my state for example. I'm an NDLA ambassador from Delta State. I know the man at the end is doing very well, but they still need to do more, because there's a state in Niger Delta, I wouldn't want to mention that state, where there's a mustering point for a particular set of young people where they do this drug business. I ask myself often that, is it that the police cannot, what's the role of the police in, make sure they sweep off those young people from that place? Or what's the work of the NDLA to make sure they sweep off those young people? Because once you park your car there, they come to meet you, they know you want to patronize them. So I think it's time most of our policies, mostly with drug issues and crime, to be enacted and not just, read them out into papers and nothing is happening.
Earlier, you were talking about parenting and pretty much a society and community, stepping up, as well as private sector. I'd like for you to talk about mental health as well. What role does mental health care play in preventing and treating drug abuse? And again, another thing is accessibility to this service as well. I'd like for you to speak on that, please.
You agree with me that the importance of mental health it's not known, mostly in Africa. In the West, I've been privileged to travel to other countries, and I know how people take mental health seriously. But back in Nigeria, sometimes when you even tell people that are facing one or two issues to go and see a therapist and all that, they'll be like, for what? It's not, I think the National Orientation Agency, mental health offices and all that, they need to amplify their importance, because back in Nigeria, I don't know if it's because of the financial lack and all that, but it's good we amplify the importance of mental health. people being engaged. You can meet a consultant and you say your problem, because I don't know, but I believe that almost a high percentage of Nigerians are depressed at the moment, owing to the fact that there's the way the economy is, there's bleakness, there's hardship, there's this social strata gap that is affecting all the Nigerian populace today. And some people want to sort of believe that taking drugs will either, ease their pains and all that. But there is need for us to amplify the importance of mental health, because at the moment in Nigeria, a handful of young persons, let me not just say young persons, a large number of persons are depressed. And sometimes they resort to taking drugs to calm themselves, which for me is not good.
Right. Well, many thanks for doing this with us, Elvis. We appreciate you for coming on. And that's Elvis Akpobi. He is the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, speaking to me on about World Drug Day. We'll go on a short break. When we come back on the other side, there's more news across the pond. Stay with us. You're welcome back. The trial of U.S. journalist Evan Gershkovich has begun behind closed doors. The Wall Street Journal correspondent is facing espionage charges, which he, his employer, and the White House vehemently deny. Gershkovich was arrested 15 months ago while on a reporting trip to Yekaterinburg, becoming the first Western journalist to be detained on spying charges in Russia since the Cold War. Russian prosecutors claim Gershkovich was working for the CIA and gathering secret information on a major Russian tank manufacturer. The trial has sparked international concern, with many calling for his release and an end to the crackdown on press freedom in Russia. I will continue to follow the news and bring you updates on more information as it becomes available. But in the meantime, I'm being joined by our international correspondent, Afia Egan. Afia, thank you for coming on. Can you tell us a little bit more about the conditions in which Evan is being, held in Russia for?
Well, yes, Evan Gershkovich has been in prison for a long time because the detention period before the trial keeps being pushed back. Now, he's held in the notorious Lefortovo prison in a very small cell in which he spends his time writing letters to colleagues, to friends, to his parents. He's let out for about 1 hour a day, in which he manages to get a little bit of exercise. Now, he usually looks different from what he does right now. We're seeing Evan Gershkovich with a shaved head at the moment, which was a surprise, actually. He looks like he is well. He's been exercising, meditating, reading, and just trying to adapt to the situation he's in. But his family have said that the last year has been unimaginable. And they said in a statement that they have felt like they've been holding their breath. We've been living in a constant ache in our hearts, thinking about Evan every moment of every day. Now, he is being held on those espionage charges. He was on assignment for the Wall Street Journal in Russia, and actually has lived in Russia for a long time. He's only 32 years old, but has lived there for quite a while, has been reporting in the region for a long time. And that latest assignment for the Wall Street Journal that he was on has resulted in his imprisonment. Now, himself, the Wall Street Journal, and of course the United States have strongly refuted that he was spying for the CIA and that he's a journalist doing his job like any other.
And I understand that he's not the only U.S. citizen being held in Russia. What can you tell us in this?
That's right. He is the first journalist to be held, U.S. citizen that's a journalist to be held by Russia since the Cold War. But the number of Americans being held in Russia has swelled in recent years. I mean, we had the case of Brittany Griner, that was the basketball star who used to play in Russia during the WNBA off-season. Now, she was detained and sentenced to 9 years in prison after authorities found cannabis oil in her luggage. Now, she spent 300 days behind bars and was freed in a prisoner swap but a Russian arms dealer nicknamed the Merchant of Death. Now, you do have Paul Whelan. He's a former US Marine. He was arrested in Moscow in 2018 and sentenced to 16 years in prison in 2020, and that was for espionage charges as well, which he's consistently and vehemently denied. US State Department has also said that he was wrongfully detained. He has reached a grim milestone recently, surpassing 2,000 days in Russian custody, and he has said that he has spent an incredible amount of time in detention for a crime that never occurred, and he has urged the Biden administration to take every action possible to secure his own release.
I will see how story continues to unfold on this court ruling with the journalist. But Afia, many thanks. We appreciate you for doing this with us. And that's Afia Again, our international correspondent. That's how we wrap up the news at this hour. But before we go, remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Judith at TV. Bye for now.